All right, on today's Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast, we're going to take a look at Dakota Mermis, who is the mystery man that was claimed off waivers. He's not so mysterious as it turns out. Also, we'll have an off-day practice report for you as Tom Callahan, Robyn Leano, we are your hosts for the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm former NHL play-by-play voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leano. Thank you so much for making us your first listen each and every day when it comes to the Utah Hockey Club. We have news, notes, information, all kinds of fun stuff coming your way. Occasionally, we get a little silly and get off in the weeds. It's all part of the fun. So we have a lot of things we want to talk about today. And Robyn, before we do so, I have to let everybody know that today's show is brought to you by the college football playoffs. The college football playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff, presented by Allstate, begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. So for those of you living in the streaming world, you're covered as well. I know the cord cutters are out there. Robyn, we're going to get to there's a bunch of stuff that came out of practice today, so it's a little bit of a catch-all bullet, but there's plenty of info contained in it. However, we have yet to talk about Dakota Mermis. And when I saw that Merms was coming back to the organization, that should be the first clue. For those who are the long timers, you know this already, but for those of you who are new, you may not know. Dakota Mermis has been in the organization before, so I was actually pretty pleased to see them pick him up.
Yeah, I was too. And when I got the the press release, from the UHC, said Utah Hockey Club claims Dakota Mermis off waivers. It didn't even take me a second to register. I was like, Mermis is back. Mermis is Dakota Mermis. By the way, if you're not so well inclined. Spent the least amount of time as a member of the Arizona Coyotes organization, particularly played a decent amount of time as a Tucson Roadrunner, where Tom and I spent a decent amount of time.
We did. And, it was good. It was good seeing his name pop back up. I was very pleased to see him heading back, and was put on waivers by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto had kind of an interesting situation where I don't know that there's a better way to put it, but Mermis was kind of a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
They have a couple things going on. They have cap constraints, and they have kind of a glut right now defensively, but they're still trying to figure things out. I honestly think, Robyn, they were hoping they could sneak him through to the American Hockey League. But number one, look at all the injuries on the Utah Hockey Club blue line. And number two, when there's a chance to bring someone back into the fold that more than another player, where you would literally be taking a flyer on an unknown, there's an attractive value proposition in that, right? For the hockey club, you're like, okay, we know this guy. We want this guy back. We understand who he is, what he does, how he does it. So, I appreciate that they decided to bring him back. So, last year, 47 games, 3 goals, 8 points. He was a -2. 74 career games in the NHL. So he's gotten more than his cup of coffee. Arizona, New Jersey, Minnesota for 3 seasons, believe it or not, and then over to Toronto. So I really think that Mermis, who had just signed with Toronto as a free agent this summer, I don't think that was a guy they wanted to lose. But kudos to Utah Hockey Club for being able to pick him up and get him back in the fold, because now I feel like the depth is appreciable for Utah Hockey Club. And I really like that.
It is not. It certainly is nice. And again, I think it is important to have a guy who you're familiar with. And yeah, sure, there might have been a slightly different coaching structure now versus when Mermis was a member of the Arizona Coyotes organization. But I think a lot of development coaches are still the same, and a lot of and plus, let's be real, like a lot of these core players are the same. Your Keller, Schmaltz, and Krause, they they know who Dakota Mermis is.
They do. A lot of the older guys are familiar with him. And the other thing, too, that's kind of nice, a left shot American born defenseman. So, not I know we always talk about how important right hand shot defensemen are. They don't necessarily grow on trees. It's probably, and I have no numbers to back this up, but I'm going to guess it is 1/3 right-handers, 2/3 left-handers is generally what you find in the world population of hockey players.
Yeah.
So when you get a right-hander, it's like a left-handed reliever in baseball, especially if you get a good one, there's a lot of value in that player. So I think that's go ahead.
To say, by the way, to those that are wondering why there's a significantly amount more left-handers in hockey than right-handers, it actually goes the opposite. It's actually technically the opposite for most hockey players, right? If you're a right-handed individual, you write with your right hand, you're very likely, especially if you're raised in Canada or most of the world, you're going to be a left shot in hockey, a left-sided shot in hockey. And it's the opposite. If you're left-handed, you're going to be a right-sided shot in hockey.
Yeah, it does work that way. And there's some eccentricities in this. Here, remember when I said in the open we get off in the weeds? Watch this. So you can, depending on how you shoot, like when I was a kid, my first stick had a straight blade, so it was up to me to figure it out. And I did shoot both ways. But then when I became a goalie, it just was easier to shoot left. My brother never became a goalie until much later. He ended up shooting right-handed. He's also right-handed. But here's an interesting thing. So when I was in the United Kingdom, Rob, and I was going to school over there for a semester, I had my rollerblades, but I didn't bring a stick. I happened to one day stumble upon a roller hockey pickup game that happened every weekend in this one park in London. And it obviously was a lot of Canadians, but I was talking to some of the local players over there. And so between the first week and the second week, I tried to find a stick. Rob, and I could not find a left-handed shot stick anywhere around the city of London. And I was asked, so I went back the second week to ask the players, I'm like, hey, where do you guys get your sticks? Like, how do you get a lefty stick? I'm having a hell of a time getting a lefty stick. And so it was explained to me, here's why. Because in the UK, the hockey they play is field hockey. All field hockey sticks are made to shoot right-handed because the back is curved and the front side is flat, and field hockey sticks are only made right-handed. So if you grow up playing any kind of hockey in the United Kingdom, you grow up playing field hockey, and you are automatically a right-hand shot because that's your only option. So pretty much every stick over there is a righty for that reason. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy. And it's crazy hearing the history behind how that's decided. I know at least how I was, and I'll tell you this, how I was trained, Tom, how I figured it out is they told you hold out your hands like you would hold a push broom. Whatever hand's on top, like that's going to be your hand that's going to be on top of a hockey stick, and then that will help you figure out are you a lefty or a righty. So, anyways, that's to the point I've been made as we were saying. That's why you're going to see a lot more, in especially particularly in the National Hockey League, because most of them are Canadian, and Canadians are kind of that's how it's dictated from that kind of era. Most right-handed Canadian hockey players are, left shots.
So when you get a right-handed shot defenseman, especially on a power play, and here's the other reason why that's valuable, you put that person on the off wing, and they are not shooting to the glove side of the goaltender, where it might be easier to find and catch a puck. You're on the off wing on the left side of a right-hand goaltender, which means they catch with their left hand.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to come across to their right, which is a blocker save, which means no containment of the puck 99% of the time. That's also a useful thing to have on your power play on your off wing. So you want the right-hand shot defenseman playing the left side on the power play and hope they have a good one-timer. Is everybody following this?
If you have any questions, let us know.
There's going to be a quiz later. I hope you guys are paying attention.
Absolutely.
Robin's like, no, there's no quiz. Stop. Tom wants to have a quiz later. So anyway, so Mermis, let's go back to Mermis. So I do want to talk about Mermis. Number one, a great guy, easy fit in the locker room. I'm very pleased to see him back. So that's fantastic. And he's also at a veteran age now, too. The other thing is he's turned 30. He'll actually be 31 next month. Happy early birthday, January 5th. You know what? I like that. I mean, I think that if nothing else, and here's the thing is if he's in Tucson, that kind of fills that Robert Bortuzzo role that you were hoping to have Bortuzzo down there to fill to help grow your young defenseman down there as well, and a guy with NHL experience. And now he steps into that role. I like that a lot. And it didn't cost him anything, Robyn, is the other thing. You've added defensive depth, you've added experience, you've added what you know is a good organizational guy for no cost.
Not to mention, if you are a Roadrunners fan and you maybe had purchased a Dakota Mermis jersey, hey,
you dust it off.
Dust it back out. Bring it out.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's pretty cool to see him back in the fold. So not quite the same as it was back in the day, but I mean, look, when you're undrafted and you find a way to, stick around the National Hockey League.
Oh, yeah.
As long as he has, that deserves some respect because it's a lot of hard work. The odds are so long when you're not drafted because clubs devote so much time to the players they draft, even maybe beyond when they should. So kudos to him.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot. They're like, oh, this is supposed to be our guy. And 6 years later, they're like, what happened?
They may still be dumping resources in them. These days, though, I think they tend to fish or cut bait a little earlier. Defensemen take longer to develop. They really do. They don't tend to hit their stride to the late 20s, early 30s. Same with goaltenders. So it's tough to pick a defenseman at 18, 19, 20 and project what they're going to be. Sometimes you can see it, but not always. That's why guys don't come from nowhere, but they stick around long enough. They keep working, and then all of a sudden they mature.
Which is why I'm liking, and then final thought, I'm liking that Utah, but a couple other NHL teams will do this. But for when it comes to defensemen, they'll draft overagers, not the ones that are first eligible for the draft, but the ones that continually have entered their name because they, at that point, as a defenseman, have proven what kind of play they are capable of.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't teach size and you can't really teach instincts, but skill sets can be apparent, but that doesn't always translate to success in the National Hockey League. There's a lot of things that have to come together in the development process.
Certainly.
Well, I think we've kind of wrung out the sponge on this one. I do want to talk about a lot of news came out of practice today. I got a bunch of notes here that I want to share with folks, including we've got some injury updates, what's going on there, and some other things that were coming out of head coach Andre Tourigny today. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to stick around and find out what the latest is because it also includes a goaltending note. So we'll get to that here in just a minute. All right, today's show is brought to you in part by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, just like me, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, you can now earn points on rent payments, just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members as well. So, I mean, I love using it. I mean, when I travel, you're going to end up staying in a hotel. You're probably booking a flight, right? Well, Built makes it easy to turn those into rewards. If you're already paying rent, why not make it work for you? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to Join Built, which is BILT. joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. That's joinbuilt, BILT.com/LockedOnNHL. Make sure to use our links so they know we're the ones who sent you over. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. And today's show also brought to you in part by SelectQuote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. If you're in good health, they work with carriers that could get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million with no medical exam required. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You could get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Got to get a little sip of water there, Robyn. Sorry.
Oh no, I totally get that. When you go through a whole few minutes of just nonstop.
I talk for a living. This may not surprise anyone listening to the show.
What?
But yes, no, I talk for a living. And, one of the most delightful things I've discovered lately have been the vocal zone of Voca Zone. I think it's not quite vocal. I think it's Voca Zone lozenges. They are these little tiny, not tasty pastilles that I just tuck, in my cheek while I'm doing a game or something like that. And it's nice. It's soothing for your throat. And it's an acquired taste. You have to at least the original flavor. I've never ventured into the other ones, but you just kind of get used to it. By the way, we're not sponsored by throat lozenges, but maybe we could be, because I go through them like candy all the time. So if anybody wants to sponsor Tom, reach out. Let me know.
For me, I was always about the. This is something that a professor, when I was a student at the University of Arizona, told me. Anytime before I hit record the voiceover or did a broadcast thing, I would drink a cup of coffee. Would open up those vocal cords, and I could speak a lot clearer and not have anything potentially stuck that can just cause any level of raspiness or any level of just bad, just bad sounding vocals.
So the pro tips, because I know everyone out there wants to be on the air or have a show or have a podcast. No dairy before you go on the air, because dairy coats the throat. And as Robyn mentioned, coffee, but no creamer in that coffee. Black coffee or regular tea. You may put lemon in your tea, but no sugar, no sweeteners, because the warm liquid helps open up your vocal folds. And when you're sick, this also works too. That's when you go to the tea with honey and lemon. And after you're done talking, go to the tea with honey and lemon to help coat and protect your throat.
Quick thing. Did I ever tell you how many cups of coffee I went through in a Roadrunners game?
No, but I'm interested.
I would always have 1 cup of coffee during the dinner, and then I would go and then I'd fill it up, head up to the press box, finish that, go back down by the time warm-ups happened, had that through the first period, go down at intermission, second period, come back up, third period, have 1 more before they take it away.
That was good coffee too.
It was great coffee.
It was good coffee.
But
so
I still get to sleep though, which is crazy.
Well, okay. So we need to talk about my NHL coffee habit. So when I was doing games, I would get to the rink. Now, mind you, I drink in the morning. I drink coffee, like 3, 4, 5 cups, whatever. So I would get to the rink around 4 for a 7 o'clock game. Cup number 1. But by the time the game hit, I had probably had 3 cups. Then I would have a cup of period. First, second, and third. People wonder how I kept my energy up. So I go to the dock. So now I'm at like probably 10 cups of coffee a day, right? So, and I'm not talking about like the what your coffee pot says is a cup. I'm talking about 12, 14, 16 ounces. And so my doctor says, you need to cut back. So Robyn, much to my chagrin, I stopped drinking a cup of coffee in the third period. So I was drinking only 5 cups
Yeah,
from 4
there you go.
o'clock until the end of the second period.
Just cutting back that extra cup.
Had to cut it back. Had to cut it back. But seriously, you wonder how I keep the energy and the enthusiasm up? Yeah, I have ways.
Coffee's
So,
great.
it really is. It really is. I'm a big coffee fan. So I'm also a big fan of the practice day update here, because I think we have some good news coming out of this, but not when it comes to injuries. Robyn, you said you're a bad news first person.
Yes.
So let's just go ahead and hit the bad news first. So the first, probably this one, I'm still, this is an unusual situation. This does not happen very often. Connor Ingram's been pulled back off the ice. He resumed skating last week. And normally when a player resumes skating, they may do less or more, but they generally don't come back off the ice and stop skating again. That's pretty unusual. That is what's happened to Connor Ingram. Ingram has come back off the ice. They have pulled him back off the ice for whatever this upper body injury is that they're keeping it behind the veil here. I don't think that's the best news. That means that he's not progressing the way they had hoped or the way they thought he would. And even Andre Tourigny said that at practice on Monday that he's not making the progress they had hoped for, so they pulled him back off the ice.
Yeah, that's certainly an unfortunate. Although, I will say this: I am so glad that they made the decision that's for the best for him, rather than try to rush him back and potentially make it worse down the road, because that could make things even worse. But I will add this, Tom, based off of how Vejmelka has been playing, I'm not extremely eager to have Ingram back. I'm not going to say I don't either have him back sooner rather than later. Plus, we'll see what more that Jackson Stauber can bring during some extra other times. But as of right now, I would like to see Ingram back at some point, of course. But based off the way that Veggie's been playing, like I said, I feel no rush.
The interesting thing with Veg is the more he plays, the better he looks.
Yes.
There were some holes there early, and I was a little concerned about those holes. But honestly, the more he plays, the better he looks, the more confident he looks. I think he's really starting to find his stride, and that's pretty cool to see.
It really is, and I think that's why I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident in him. Like, remember going into the offseason, I was like, he just did not have a good year.
Well, the net was kind of Ingram's to lose. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, injuries happen.
Yep. And I mean, we've had a situation like that, right? Where an injury would happen, and all of a sudden a goalie comes in and just takes over the starting gig, takes over the 1A gig, and they're like, well, now I'm taking the majority of the starts, and even if you come back from injury, well, I'm still going to take them because you just can't demote me at this point. I've been playing so well. It's happened so many times, I think, in so many teams in the last decade, I think.
It does, and it's, again, I mean, you have Vejmelka for 1 more year, Ingram for 2. So you obviously want to see them both do well. And Veggie's playing for his next deal, so there's motivation there to play well. But any player, I think, when they play in a regular rotation is going to get in a rhythm and feel better and play better. It's very hard to play once a week and feel like you are on your game. So I don't know. It's, Stauber's going to get a chance coming up here. Not Wednesday is what we were told. So Veg will be in against Vancouver. But Andre Tourigny didn't tip his hand as to when we'll see him in there. But so in the meantime, Ingram has, and he wouldn't say if it was a setback or not, wouldn't say if it was re-injured or not, just said wasn't making the progress they had hoped, so they pulled him back off the ice. So, Robyn, we need to hit a break here. So why don't we do that, and then we'll come back with more on the injury updates, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on with the team.
Yeah, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you're in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all in the same place where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Once again, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. $150 if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League.
All right, so back to the injury updates here. There are no updates, which I guess maybe no news is good news, except Bortuzzo, still nothing to report on him. So that means he's probably not back in anytime soon. And again, what else could go wrong? And I don't want to ask. I'm going to knock on my wood desk here because I am concerned about that. It's more of the same. So again, the Mermis waiver claim is a big deal, for this Utah Hockey Club. When are they going to get healthy? Hopefully soon. But again, no Bortuzzo, who's still listed as day-to-day, I guess, actually, no, that they might have actually put him on IR by now, Robyn. I'm going to have to double check this. But for a while they were saying he was day-to-day. And you know what? That's the other thing. To me, I worry about, they're playing well right now. They're finding a way. But when Lamoureux gets healthy, they're going to want to bring him back in unless they assign him to Tucson for conditioning, which they could do. But my question is, okay, how do you fit these guys back in when it's time to fit them back in?
It's going to be a huge question because, they've been having to pick up a bunch of, external pieces to fill out those gaps. And once everyone in it is healthy, it really is to leave to that decision. With a guy like Lamoureux, however, I think I think everybody else is healthy, honestly, I think that's the toughest decision because if he's still waivers eligible, not waivers eligible, doesn't have to clear waivers, then it's the easiest thing to do is, all right, that clears up a spot right there on the blue line. Get him back down in Tucson, figure things out in the offseason, and if you liked what he did, then you can have him as a starting role in Utah next season. But other than that, having to juggle all of that, it's going to be a really difficult decision for Bill Armstrong. And said, all right, who do we see is going to contribute the most? Not just this season, but next couple seasons. Is it worth bringing these people back at this point? There's so many questions that need to be answered. And a decent amount of time left until that comes up though.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Bortuzzo not on IR as of right now. And they've got the four guys that are on IR are Dursey, Marino, Ingram, and Lamoureux. So Bortuzzo is not listed on there, but that's four defensemen on a big injury list, right? That's difficult. So I don't know. I know we talk about it all the time, but it is probably the biggest factor of what's going on right now.
It feels like a broken record at this point. How many times on this show we've talked about how broken this blue line is. But there seems to be hope. And again, as we said, there is maybe potentially some progress. Who knows where we can get, but again, we won't know until much later, much later.
Yeah.
Not in this year, not in 2024.
No. All right, let's move on to some sunny skies here. So, Alex Kerfoot had an interesting quote in the locker room today saying that he thinks there's a new belief with this team going into games, like a confidence that is building that's there now with this team. And, Andre Tourney confirmed that. He said, yeah, the confidence is high. And he talked about how Utah Hockey Club is learning to win in different ways, Robyn. And, it's interesting. They've had 3 third period comebacks here in the last couple of weeks. They really have been a very resilient hockey team. They have found ways to win. I talked about the special teams has started to kick it into gear. I'm feeling a little bit like, and it took longer than I thought it would, but I'm feeling a little bit like the glue is finally starting to dry here on this 24-25 model, and maybe we're going to get more solid performances than we had seen previously.
And I mean, that's the hope, right? That's always the hope, that when you see a sign like this, you see the team's getting more confident, that it's going to continue. We're going to see that continued improvement down the line here. And I'm glad this team's getting performance. I mean, I certainly can see it. I'm looking at you. We look at this team in the month of December versus the team in the in the early half, particularly the early half of November, latter half of October. That seemed pretty dismal. The team kind of was like we talked about how many times they fell on naps or whatever it was. This feels different. It seems like sure, they might have those, that brief moment in which they'll get 2 goals against in the span of a couple of minutes. But again, those are mistakes that are easily correctable. But it seems like now they're not letting that get to them anymore, which is a positive sign. If they can hold on to that, this team can get back to a level of competition that I was hoping to see before the season began.
Yeah, and I think some hopes are higher than others, depending on who you were talking to at the time. But I think that I always believed this team could be competitive. It's just a matter of putting it together. And again, doing it while injury riddled is actually more impressive.
Yeah.
Because you have to all play together. You have to really all, pull the rope. Otherwise, you're not going to win those games. And yet here we are talking about winning 6 of the last 10 points, and I think 8 of the last 10 now, and looking pretty good.
Honestly, I think that's a really good point in talking about. I think in general is, I would like to maybe if this thing continues, like down the road, take an even deeper look at potentially how the comparative resilience of this team compared to maybe previous teams, previous versions of this team, whether it be from those Coyotes eras or whatever you want to refer to, maybe other teams, and see exactly the level of resilience and how other teams have fared with major injuries or other kinds of pretty big setbacks.
Yeah, and those things are immeasurable, right? They're intangibles, but that's why intangibles are so important. And that's why we talk about intangibles, because you need to have them to win. What are they? Well, you'll know it when you see it, but but you'll know it when you feel it too. And I think back to what Kerfoot was saying about this belief that this team has now, that's an intangible, Robyn. That is a plus intangible. And right now, to know that the Utah Hockey Club is starting to feel itself a little bit, I don't mind that at all, because what comes from that is then confidence and then swagger. And that's when you don't just think you're going to win, but you're going to win. You're going to play well. The best teams in the NHL have that every single night.
They do. And I think there's a difference too between and a huge difference, because you can tell the difference very much so. And I'm pretty sure you can probably you probably have seen this and probably a number of times, Tom, the difference between that level of confidence versus an NHL team who has an overexample to when it gets to cockiness.
Right. There is a difference.
And we've seen that, like, cocky teams they will underestimate their opponent and they'll lose games they shouldn't. They all of a sudden and they're getting angry about it. They don't blame themselves. They go through it. They, that whatever it might be.
And you know what? When you do suffer a bad beat, because everyone does, teams that are lower in the standings, when you lose a game you shouldn't, throw their hands up and go, it's more of the same. Teams at the top of the standings, when that happens, they go, well, that was weird. And then they just go play the next game. Yep. If there's something that can be taken out of it, everybody throws out a clunker, right? We all know that it's a fact of hockey life. Nobody goes 82-0.
Yeah, because hockey is, as I like to say, hockey is dumb. I love the sport, but you never know what's going to happen.
It is dumb. Just stupid things happen. Sometimes a puck goes in off a stanchion in the middle of the ice, and your goaltender's out behind the net waiting for it, and it never shows up because it goes in. And those things happen, and you get the bounces sometimes and other times you don't. But I think, the confidence, you don't just tell guys to be confident and it works. They have to grow that and believe it in themselves. And so the fact that the UHC is feeling that way enough to have someone say it out loud, that to me is a big deal.
Oh, certainly. And I agree with that. And I think it's, it is telling. It probably has to do with, I think when you combine the resiliency with their confidence, I think that's what's making, what's making them have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that, hey, nothing beats winning. Everybody's happy when you're winning. So,
oh yeah, it feels great. I like talking about wins.
yes.
Even for us, right? When we talk about losses, we're like, oh great, we have to talk about all these bad things again. When we talk about wins, we're having a fun time here.
There you go. Good times. Let's talk about winning. Here's to winning.
Here's the winning. Any final thoughts before we close things off on today's episode, Tom?
No, I think it's a good day of practice, coming out of Monday into Tuesday. So when you're hearing this on a Tuesday, I mean, one more day of practice before Vancouver hits Wednesday. And we're going to have our Vancouver preview show coming up here in a little bit as well. So looking forward to that. And you know what? A great test on Wednesday, but we're going to talk about that next episode.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment, a like, subscribe if you have yet to already. We are available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube. If you do subscribe on YouTube, don't forget to also hit the notification bell so you get notified every single time a new episode drops. Or if you're on the audio version, just hit auto download. So it's automatically on your phone every morning. It's a really good way. So that way, all you gotta do is hit play and you're good to go. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We are on Instagram, Threads, X, and on Blue Sky. On the former 3 I mentioned, we are at LO_NHL Utah. And on Blue Sky, it is at Locked On Utah Hockey. I am personally at Robyn_Leonio on X or /Twitter, whatever you want to refer it to as. I am at Robyn Ice Time on Blue Sky. And Tom, where can they find you?
It's always Twitter to me, Robyn. And I am at Callahan on air on Twitter. And over on Blue Sky, I'm on the main Blue Sky server. And you can find me at Tom Talks.
You can follow us there. Ask us any question, mention us, send us a DM, ask, and really just get to know us or anything you do ask. We wouldn't be afraid to either answer that right away directly to you, or put it on a future episode. Make it a point of topic on one of the future episodes of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Well, thanks again, everyone, for listening to this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.